Daniels at the Boxers Trainers channel. And what's going on this morning, people? Welcome back to the channel. This morning, I want to start with a little tidbit information. What's going on in the world? You know what I mean? And um, the thing that bothers me the most about what's going on in the world is the war in Iran against the United States and Israel, right? And the justification for going to war, right, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, has not been publicly made known, right? They went in there uh, prior to starting the war saying that they was um, prepared to annihilate Iran because of their threat of weapons of mass destruction, right? Now, after that, they went back in there and said that they was going in to finish blowing up Iran to destroy weapons of mass destruction. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know about y'all, but that sounds really suspicious to me. You know what I mean? You went in there twice with on the same pretext for the exact same thing, right? But now you still over there creating havoc and death, right? Even of women and children. I mean, to me, as a humanitarian, right, I find this action by the United States appalling, reprehensible, right? And I think that the United States needs to withdraw. Well, I don't care how you do it, withdraw, right? A peace accord is the best thing in the best interest of humanity, as far as I'm concerned, right? So um, let's see if we can make some noise as um, the people, right? That this government represent. Let's see if we can make some noise and get this catastrophe halted. Now, let's talk about some boxing. I like to try to, what I'm saying, insert um, knowledge about world events in this boxing podcast. This is a boxing podcast, but I've said this time and time again that it is my intentions to be a person that um, teaches. You know what I mean? I don't think that we get enough um, reliable information as far as teaching as an older person. You know what I mean? I don't think that we get enough teaching on current events, on what's right and what's wrong today. I don't think we get that, right? Because nobody seems to care about what's going on in the world, right? We leave all that up to the United States government, right? And in my opinion, right, the United States government doesn't have the best interests of the people at heart. Never have. And I've been on this planet for 76 years, and I see a repetitious behavior, right? The rich continue to get richer and the poor continue to get poorer. If that's what you call being in the best interest of the people, then I don't want to have anything to do with it. Now, look, last night I was sitting back thinking about Keyshawn Davis and Edwin De Los Santos, right? Actually, I was thinking about Edwin De Los Santos. Shout out to the chat. Appreciate you, right? I was thinking about Edwin De Los Santos, right? Edwin De Los Santos hasn't been on the fight scene since that uh, uh, fiasco between Keyshawn Davis and Edwin De Los Santos. The day that they were supposed to fight, at the weight at the final weigh-in, right? Um, Keyshawn Davis. No, actually, I take that back. It was the day of the fight at the weigh-in, right? Keyshawn Davis um, was overweight significantly, and therefore the fight ended up getting canceled, right? So my thing is this. Now, I want to be perfectly clear, and I want to be fair, right? Edwin De Los Santos did get compensated for that fight, right? That was a part of the contract. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing. But the thing that concerns me as an ex boxer, right? And as a person that, you know what I'm saying, has his hands and feet in the boxing, right? In the sense that I love boxing, right? I just can't seem to come to terms with what happened to that damn fight, right? Why wasn't that fight calculated? Why wasn't that fight made again after that incident? Why did um Edwin Santo lose his right to become a world champion as a result of Keyshawn Davis not wanting to fight Edwin? Now this is what this is really all about, right, people? Let me be perfectly clear about this. It is my belief that Keyshawn Davis was scared the hell out of Edwin De Los Santos. He was scared. He didn't want to fight Edwin De Los Santos. So the thing about the weight, right? Because he said afterwards that he really could have made weight if he really wanted to, right? So that leads an intelligent person to believe that Lettish London. Shout out to Lettish London. Lettish London. Okay. Shout out to the chat and thank you for your support. Um, that kind of proved to me that Keyshawn Davis didn't want to have anything to do with Edwin De Los Santos. Now, here's the deal. Since that awful incident last year, it was last year, the date I can't recall, but it was last year, right? We've heard nothing from Edwin De Los Santos. Nothing. Now, I believe that Edwin De Los Santos had the proclivity. Shout out to Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. Yes, sir. Absolutely, brother. You know what I'm saying? I gotta keep it moving like you. You know what I'm saying? You got your chat fired up, and I gotta do the same, brother. Age is not a factor in what we do. Shout out to Bruce, Boxing Jazz, and more. Shout out to okay, Sandarak. Okay, Sandarak. Ooh, that's a long one. Where you from? Okay. Sander ADC. I can't pronounce that one. Shout out to the chat because I can't pronounce it. That is extreme. Okay, that's Portuguese. Is that what that is? Thanks. Shout out to Bruce Gas, Boxer Jazz, and more. Sandra Checo. Okay. Thanks, brother. And good morning. Good morning, brother. Uh Sandra Sandra Checo is from Portugal. Shout out to Portugal, y'all. But let me get back to this issue, right? Well, you can weigh in on this, Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. I'm talking about Edwin De Los Santos and that fight that was supposed to take place between Keyshawn Davis, right? Last year. It didn't take place. We know that. The issue at this junction for me is what the hell happened to uh, Edwin De Los Santos? Edwin De Los Santos has not said a word. Hasn't anybody said a word about Edwin De Los Santos? I personally liked Edwin De Los Santos. Ever since he fought Shakur Stevenson, and Shakur Stevenson did everything imaginable to avoid confrontation with Edward De Los Santos. I liked it, Edward De Los Santos. Edward De Los Santos, to me, was a type of boxer that boxers in this generation kind of like run and duck and hide from, right? And that has been proven today, right? Again, I'm going to say this again. Where the hell is Edward De Los Santos? Why isn't Edward De Los Santos um, um, preparing for a fight? You know, is anybody in the boxing game um, courageous enough to fight Edward De Los Santos? That's what I'm getting at with this podcast, right? You know, I'm supporting Edward De Los Santos. I believe that Edward De Los Santos had the skill set to be a world champion. I'm gonna say that again. I believe that Edward De Los Santos had the skill set to be a world champion, and I equally and also believe that Keyshawn Davis was scared to face Edwin de los Santos. This is where all this nonsense came about weight, him getting stripped. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, he got stripped about that incident, right? About being overweight per se. But at the end of the day, right, this is boxing, right? You know what I'm saying? That is what people like Keyshawn Davis get all the big bucks for being good boxers. Now, I'm not saying that Keyshawn Davis isn't a good boxer, right? He even has the ability to be a great boxer, right? But the thing that fascinates me about boxers like Keyshawn Davis is this: when it comes to the heat, in this case, that was Los Santos, right? They found an exit strategy. They find an exit strategy to prevent being challenged. Yeah, I don't, you know what I mean? I mean, that's an insult to boxing, and that's an insult to me as an older person that's been engaged in the sport of boxing physically. You know what I mean? It's an insult. It's an insult to these cats, right? To make all this, I mean, it's just too much of that going on in the sport. We don't get the fights that we want to see because these cats have the mindset that they can pick and choose and duck, you know what I mean, the challenge of losing ratings in the win and loss column, right? And losing their ability to look like they're great boxers, right? That's all, you know what I'm saying, fine and dandy for those that don't understand boxing. But for me, that understand the ups and downs of boxing, right? That's an insult. That's a disrespect to the sport, right? And it's a lot of boxers out there engaged in that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of boxers that would rather pick and choose with rather than take on the challenge, right? Rather than putting the fans in a position, right, where they want to want to see more, where they thrive and see that cat again because he stood up when the rest of these cats, you know what I'm saying, laid down. At the end of the day, that's what it's about in boxing. For me, it's about great fights. It's hey, look, I came up around the Sugar Ray Leonard era. Right. Actually, I can go back farther to the Muhammad Ali era. Right. It is Muhammad Ali and that era that fascinated me to the point where I put on gloves and started boxing. Right. So from that era up until today, there are there is a distinction between the two eras. Right. I'm just say between um this era versus just say the last era, right? The Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, that era, right? That was the last of um the fighting era, right? What the boxers challenged one another. This this garbage that we working with today, man, this is embarrassing. There's really only a few boxers, right, that are considered as the elite fighters, as far as I'm concerned, that rise to the occasion of being of the mindset of old school boxers. Devin Haney, Terrence Bud Crawford, Earl Spence Jr., the Charlo brothers. There's a few others, right? But I'm just saying, other than these few, this handful of boxers, right? The majority of these cats out there today, the Javante Tank Davis, the Keyshawn Davises, the well, I'm looking at Score Stevenson. Score Stevenson fits in that category too. I like Score Stevenson. He's a great boxer, but he has certain things about his behavior when it comes to boxing that I just totally deplore. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a great boxer, but seriously speaking, he's the type of boxer that rises to the occasion out of fear, in my opinion. Right? He's a great boxer, right? If he can get away from this is to me, right? If he can get away from that skill factor, right, he would be a great boxer, right? But I have to put him in that collar in certain occasions with those that have the tendency of ducking. Look, when I came up, there was no. Hey, that's a term that I never heard before until now. Ducking in boxing, I never heard that before. But it is a constant um, word that we use in the sport of boxing today. Because what else can you call it when you don't make a fight? When there's an explanation for why the fight is not being made, right? I mean, look, let me be perfectly clear about that aspect, right? Oh my gosh. Well, people in the chat, y'all be saying, I mean, anything, but it's okay. This is what this is about. I mean, say what you will, right? I mean, if that's what you feel, it's okay. Look, but the difference between today and yesterday boxing is different as night and day when it comes to boxers being courageous back in the day versus those are kind of like mediocre when it comes to getting scarred up and getting there and when they get in the ring or, what I'm saying, taking a loss. It was a thing about taking a loss back in the days, but the boxers back then went in the gym, horned their car up, right, and made it hella difficult, to get beat. And if they did take a loss, it wasn't a big thing because the work that they put in to get to the point where they took that loss, right, far outweighed them having to be concerned about making big fights again. Today, they got to. Boxers have to worry about making big paydays once they put themselves in a position where they take a loss because they don't put in the necessary work, in my opinion, right, to rise above to the point where they don't take losses. You gotta be a professional with this. No, look, sports period, you have to be professional, but especially with boxing because boxing is the type of sport, right, that's not regulated. We did a podcast on it yesterday, right? And the thing about not being regulated is you can damn near do whatever you want to and get away with it, right? In my opinion, everything has to be accountable for everything, right, in life. If it's not, if it's not governed by some type of rules or regulations or statutes, right, it tends to have a corrupt face attached to it. Boxing, in my opinion, has a corrupt, political in nature face attached to it. And that's not, look. When you love something like I love boxing, right, that poses us a problem, right? It's a lot of stuff. A lot of people in boxing today, it's like, how did they get away with that? I mean, I deal with a lot of people in boxing, right? You know what I'm saying? Off the record, right? That have absolutely no moral apparatus. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Excuse me. No, it's sad, but it's true. Wait, what's up, Guam? Is somebody in the chat from Guam? If it's somebody in the chat from Guam, okay. Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Okay. Shout out to Guam. Guam in the house, y'all. Let's see if anybody else out there from any notable place. Oh my gosh. I am number. You are not. Oh, Nuni, Nooner. Nunez. Nunez or Nuna? I am Nuna. Nooner. Well, I'm older. I can't figure out all that stuff. This is about boxing and what I think about the people in boxing. So let me do this. Keyshawn Davis and Edwin Santo potentially are supposed to fight in 2026 this year, right? Now, I don't really think that fight's going to come to fruition. I just don't think it's going to come to fruition because, like I said, I'm going to say it again. I think that Keyshawn Davis, contrary to the fact that Keyshawn Davis can box, is scared the hell out of Oscar, excuse me, Edwin De Los Santo. I think He's scared of Edwin De Los Santos because of the incident between Shakur Stevenson and Edwin De Los Santos, right? Edwin De Los Santos probably would have did a better job on Shakur Stevenson had Shakur Stevenson not, what I'm saying, put himself in the position where he got on his bike and wouldn't stabilize himself to fight Edwin De Los Santos. And because because Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevens are partners, in my opinion, I believe that they had a conversation about Edwin De Los Santos, and that was the real reason for why that fight didn't come to fruition between Keyshawn Davis and Edwin De Los Santos. You know what I mean? Where and when Keyshawn Davis ended up getting suspended for being overweight. Right? I mean, this type of conversation about boxing, right, is crazy. We should be talking about the punch selection that Keyshawn Davis and no, excuse me, Keyshawn Davis and Edwin De Los Santos did when they had the fight. We should be talking about how much training these dudes put in to take this fight and make this fight, right? We should be talking about that was a hell of a fight instead of talking about why in the hell that fight was made. Yeah, that's right. This kind of conversation is laughable. We talking about trained athletes, right? We talking about people that put in the work that consider themselves athletes. Man. That's. I had a conversation with Bill Haney once, and uh, I was um, giving him kudos for his son being an athlete. You know what that means? To be an athlete, right? To sculpture your body, you know what I mean, in the work environment of what you do to be in a position where you can go 12 rounds. That is an athlete, man. We I'm an athlete. And today, I still, contrary to the fact of my age, I still consider myself as an athlete because I still do the things necessary to stay in shape. I'm an athlete, right? Not on the level of a Keyshawn Davis or El De Los Santos, Devin Haney, retired Terrence Bud Crawford. I'm not on that level, but I still believe that I'm a good athlete. That's what I want to go. That's what I want to leave the earth being a good athlete. One of the things I might add, right? But this generation of athletes do not rise to the occasion of being great athletes. They do just enough to get paid, and that's horrible. I hope, like hell, this video gets to those that are high paid athletes, right? I hope this video gets to them, right? So they can do something about their disposition as athletes. You feel me? So let me do this. Keyshawn Davis was the WBO junior, excuse me, no, the WBO lightweight champion of the world, right? The bout between he and Edwin Del Santo was for that WBO um, title, right? Keyshawn Davis, 27 years of age. He's 5'9" with a 70.1-inch arm reach. He's a right-hander. 14 wins, 10 by knockout. Um, no losses, never been stopped, no draws. He is ranked number 3 by Ring Magazine, 4 by WBO, and he's ranked number 1 by the WBO. Ever Del Santo is 26 years of age. He's 5'8" with a 70.1-inch arm reach also. He's a left-hander, 17 wins, 15 by knockout. That's why them cats were scared of him. He was a knockout artist. 2 losses, never been stopped, no draws, right? There was no rankings on Edwin De Los Santos, and that remains to be seen because Edwin De Los Santos is not as active. He easily could be considered as inactive. Not because I think he wants to, because he probably can't get a fight because of people like Keyshawn Davis. You know what I mean? This I brought to the table because I want to bring attention to this ducking narrative. Why do have to go through this? Why does boxing allow this? You know what I'm saying? Just man, look, this puts a blemish on boxing for people to believe that it's okay to be in a position where they can duck or miss fighting a cat for weight, whatever. We gotta we gotta get a ring on this, man. That being said, look, hit that subscription button, hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section, and let me know if you guys want to see that fight again between. Now I can't say again. Let me know if you guys want to see Keyshawn Davis versus Edwin de los Santos. Let me know. That being said, I'm gone.